Hey you guys, here's our first recording. We are going to look at section 6-7. So if you want to take notes and follow along, that's great. Maybe try the problems as we do them. I think that'll be helpful. And if at any time you need to stop and back up the recording, you can do that as many times as you need. So let's do a quick review of the rules that we've learned for exponents. The first one that we have is if you have a power times another power, okay? Both x's are on ground level and you've got exponents up in the air. Then what we do is we're going to take these exponents and we're going to add them. Remember, what we're doing is just counting how many x's we have. We have 2 x's and 3 x's, and that's going to give us 5 total. So that's one of our rules. We also learned what to do when you have a power to a power. So what this means is that I have 3 x squareds. And so the rule that we talked about was these guys, when they hang out in the air together, they multiply. So this is going to be x to the 6th. All right, and then we also did division. So if you have x to the 5th over x squared, what this means is I've got 5 x's over 2 x's. And those 2 x's cancel, and I'm just left with 3. So it's x to the 3rd. And the rule we talked about here is that when powers divide, then you subtract. Okay, so that's what we've done so far. And today what we're going to talk about is what do I do with negative exponents? So let's say that we have x to the negative 5. Basically, a negative exponent turns positive when you move it from the upstairs to the downstairs, or vice versa. So if you've got a fraction, here's your upstairs, here's your downstairs. This x to the negative 5 is starting upstairs, okay? And if I want to change it to positive, I take it downstairs and I turn the exponent positive. Now, what goes up here on the top? When there's nothing to fill in the top, you always fill it in with a 1. We've talked about that before, and that's going to stay the way we do things. So a negative exponent goes downstairs to turn positive. Now, what if you have a negative exponent and it's already downstairs? Okay, well, here's our upstairs and downstairs. This is already downstairs, so now it's going to go up. X to the 5th on top. What's going to hold the place down here? A 1. Now, usually when things are over 1, we don't write that. It's not wrong to write it, but usually we're just going to leave that as x to the 5th. Okay? So that's the basic rule for today. So why don't you try this one? Turn that exponent positive. Okay, hopefully what you wrote is 1 over x cubed. So this exponent is negative. It's upstairs, so it goes downstairs and goes positive. All right, now what we're going to do with these negative exponents is combine them with all of our previous rules from before. Okay, here we go. Let's say we have x to the negative 3 times x to the negative 5. There's 2 ways to do these problems. One way is to first turn the negatives into positives. And the second way is to use the original rules that we learned. I'll show you both and you can choose. So in this situation, because I have 2 x's on ground level, the rule says that I take my exponents and I add them. Now, because they're negative, that means that they're going to add in the negative direction. So this is going to be negative 3 plus a negative 5, which is going to give me negative 8. Okay, now that is a negative exponent. I want to turn it positive, so I'm going to throw it downstairs and make it positive. And that's my final answer. Okay. The other way that you can do this problem is you can say, I don't like those negative exponents at the beginning, so I'm going to change them positive right away, each of them. So this one is going to go downstairs and turn positive, and this one is going to go downstairs and make it positive. And now you just do the math like normal. When you multiply fractions, you multiply the tops, 1 times 1 is 1, and you multiply the bottoms. Well, our rule says 2x's with powers, you add the exponents. So this is going to be 8x to the 8th, and that's your answer. Either way, same result. Okay, so that's one example with powers. Both on the x's. Now let's look at another example where you have negative powers, 2 powers. Okay, so maybe something like this. Now if you remember our rule, it's that when powers are hanging out in the air together, they multiply. So this is going to be x. Negative 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. And then I'm going to turn that positive. It's upstairs. I'm going to throw it downstairs and make it positive. Okay? So that's how that rule works with negative exponents. The other way you can think of this is I could choose to turn this inside positive first, and that's okay. So x to the negative 3 is 1 over x cubed. So I'm taking this inside negative 3, turning it positive, and it's still to the 5th power. And now we use our rules from the previous section, and this 5 is going to distribute in as a power through multiplication. So this becomes 1 to the 5th over x to the 15th. 5 times 3 is 15. And 1 to the 5th is just 1, so this is my answer. Either way, you get the same result. Okay. And then you see in this example, you see division as well, okay, and how that works with negative exponents. So basically the rules are all the same, just whenever you're seeing a negative, you throw it upstairs and downstairs. Now, what if I have multiple negatives? So let's look at this example. X squared over 2 to the negative 3. This negative is hanging out in the air, and it's going to distribute in as a power, not through multiplication, but as a power, and it's going to multiply in. So what that's going to give you is x to the negative 6 over 2 to the negative 3, because the power on the 2 is a 1. So up here I'm going negative 3 times 2, and down here I'm going negative 3 times 1. Now what do I do with these? Well, in this case they are both negative. I've got this x with a negative power and the 2 with the negative power. So both of them have to move. The x has to move downstairs and the 2 has to move upstairs. And that's how you change the powers positive. So now I'm going to have the 2 to the positive 3 upstairs and x to the positive 6 downstairs. Okay, and then any numbers you can actually multiply out. So 2 to the 2 cubed, this is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8, over x to the 6th. Okay, and that's your answer. So once you've done the problem, you look at what you have left and you take all of your negatives and just switch where they are, top or bottom. Okay, let me do one more problem and then we'll call this video to an end. I'm going to do -5. Whoop. X to the 6th, n to the 4th, over 6x to the -8, n squared. Okay. So when you're approaching this problem, remember your rules from the beginning of the chapter. Numbers are normal. That means that when you multiply, and when you have two numbers in front and you're multiplying, you do actually multiply them. So -5 times a +6 is a -30. Now, this will not move. It does not have a power that's negative. The number itself is negative. What is the power on this -30? You guys remember? It's a 1, and that's a +1. So this -30 is going to stay here. We don't move negative numbers. We only move negative powers. Let me say that again. We don't move negative numbers. We only move negative powers. Okay? Now we're going to look at our x terms. Our x terms are right here. Let's do a different color. Oh my gosh, I just erased some of the problem. Please hold. This is the first video, you know, so you get some of that. All right, here's our x terms right here. Okay, and because each of these powers is on an x, these numbers are going to add. So I have x to the 6 plus a -8 is a -2. Okay, and then I'm going to look at my n values. Okay, my n values are here, and those exponents are 4 and 2, so that means I've got 4 of these, 2 of these. I've got 6 altogether. Okay, now that's my answer, but I've got some negative exponents. And this guy, this x, is the only one with a negative exponent. Remember, this is okay. This stays. The only thing that needs to move is the x, so I'm going to have a -30 up top. Also, my n to the 6 stays up top because it's already positive. And this negative guy is going to go downstairs. This is my answer. Okay. Now, I want to look at this problem one other way before I let you go, because some of you are going to look at this and say, hey, I just want to turn that x positive at the beginning. Well, you can do that. Here's what it looks like. Okay, what I'm going to do is right from the beginning, I'm going to say, hey, here's my negative exponent. That needs to change. So here's what that looks like. I'm going to create a fraction, and I'm going to move it downstairs. So this one stays the same. There's no negative exponents in this one. And this one becomes 6n squared, because those guys are positive. And the x to the 8 goes downstairs, positive. And now you can do the problem just like normal. This is two fractions multiplying, and you go straight across. Numbers are normal, so -5 times 6 is -30. Then you've got an x to the 6th on the top, and you've got 4 n's and 2 n's, which give you 6 n's total. All over, what's on the bottom? 1 times x to the 8th, which is x to the 8th. Now, let me write that a little bit better. What do we do with these guys? Right here, we combine those with division. So I'm left with -30 n to the 6th. And what's happening with the x's? I've got 6 up top. Yeah. I've got 8 down on the bottom. So the 6 cancel, and I'm left with 2 down on the bottom. Notice that is the same as our previous answer. So there's a couple ways to look at these, and usually, students prefer one over the other, and I don't care how you do them. Either way, and I'll try to show you how to do these. We'll do more examples like this in class, and I'll try to do them both ways so you can continue to choose what your method is. What I'd like you to do is watch this video, maybe go through and practice the examples that I did here again. You do not need to start on your homework yet. All I want you to do is watch this video, and then we're going to talk about it Tuesday during our class time at 10:15. You will get a Zoom link, and we will be live, and we will be doing problems in this fashion together. I'll give you some to try. We can ask questions and all sorts of stuff. A lot of people have expressed concerns about being nervous, about not getting the material. I am committed to, I will stay on that link until everybody gets it. And so no need to be nervous about that. We're gonna get through this, and we've got a lot of time to process and think through this. So please watch this video more than once. Make sure that you understand the examples that are done, and be ready for class on Tuesday. Have a great day, guys.